We'll call the meeting to order for the January 25th meeting of the Clemson City Police Advisory Board. We'll start with the roll call. Myself, Lisa Robinson. One of our new members, welcome, Jackie Myers.
Present.
Kevin Dull.
Present.
Sandy Edge.
Present.
Riley Wright.
Present.
Another one of our new members, welcome, Pablo Unda.
Present.
Elaine Masseri.
Present.
Winton Hunter.
Here.
And our high school student, Ashby Hunter. She may be coming a little bit later. Okay, we'll now proceed with the vote for the chair and co-chair positions.
Ashby Williams.
Yes, I just said Ashby, I believe.
Okay.
She,
Did she say Ashby Hunter? Maybe
That's
I
what I-
misheard
that's
her.
what I heard.
Yeah, okay.
oh, did I? Oh, Ashby Williams, I'm so sorry. I guess I
I
was looking
started
at
looking and
Winton.
going, wait a minute, did we misspell it?
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, Ashby Williams, our high school representative. She may be coming a little bit
Yeah,
later.
she said she was coming, but,
Yeah, after she
schedule.
gets out, yeah.
so all we need to record is if you want to remain the chair and the board is okay with you remaining the chair, just vote on it. And if you want to vote on or nominate a co-chair, put nominations out there and vote on a co-chair.
I would accept remaining chair, but if there are others who are interested in the role, I think we could do nominations.
If you want to do that, I'll do the co-chair.
That's great.
If somebody wants to nominate me.
I nominate Kevin.
I agree with these two.
I second that motion.
Ashby, I think, where do we have her? We're changing it up on you. So we're voting on chair and co-chair, and they just discussed having Lisa remain the chair and Kevin volunteer to be the co-chair. So if,
I make a motion, we vote on that.
okay,
Second.
second.
It's been moved and seconded. Oh, it's kind of weird for me to be doing this. Maybe Chief, you should be calling the vote.
Oh, I guess so.
I have a point of order or a
Point of
question.
order.
Should we be voting, since this is our first day and we're not familiar with everybody on the board, would it be proper for us to vote?
I mean, if you abstain from voting,
That's
you
what
still have a quorum that can vote.
Okay, I'm gonna abstain.
Okay, but you can do that if you want to. Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? Passes.
Okay,
Okay,
and I abstain.
and one abstention.
And one abstention, yes. Okay, we will now proceed with the approval of the agenda. You have that in front of you. Take a few minutes to review that.
The only thing I would ask that we add to the agenda, before we adjourn, is recognition of our now former member,
Yes.
Eunice. Make sure we put that on there.
That's my ride. Go miss her.
Okay, we will add that to the agenda before adjourning. Are there any other additions, changes, edits to the agenda?
Say again? Before adjournment.
At the end.
Okay, can we get a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve.
Unless Eunice has to go somewhere, we can put you further up.
I can drive, so.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you can take the car and drive around the city if you want to.
Okay, I think Riley made a motion.
Yeah, motion approved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the agenda as amended?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstention? Okay. Okay, we will now move on to the approval of the previous minutes from December 7th. So you have those in front of you as well, if you take some time, if you haven't already, to look over those. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes? If there are none, can we get a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
It's been moved, and do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of the minutes from the December 7th meeting? Approved? Opposed? Abstention? Okay. We will now move on to the citizens' comments. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and I believe Elaine has a comment from a citizen to read into the record here.
Right. This is concerning vehicle noise, and I don't know this person, but they hooked up with me, emailed me on Nextdoor, and a lot's being said about vehicle noise, and evidently to the council members too, because the council member, one of the council members asked me for you to, I talked to Chief about it before the meeting. He knows to address this. So here is the letter from Mr. Harvey Gold. Dear distinguished members, I live in close proximity to the public's area, and particularly every night I am awakened, sometimes out of a dead sleep, by noise bombs from vehicle mufflers apparently modified to be as loud as possible, vehicle stereos and/or vehicles which include both. At times it sounds as if there is a motor speedway outside my bedroom window. This is not to imply that it only happens at night either. I hear them all day long, but it's naturally more noticeable when I'm trying to sleep or trying to get back to sleep after being startled in the dead of night or early morning hours. I recognize the fact that our police department cannot be expected to be everywhere at once, nor can they divert their focus on such seemingly trivial matters as noise when they have so many more important and urgent matters with which to deal on a daily basis. But the speeding along Highway 93, 76, and 123 is dangerous to everyone, not just residents of our fair city, and in my humble opinion has grown exponentially worse over the last few years. It was recently brought to my attention that Clemson already has a noise ordinance on the books, and I would like to respectfully request that someone in authority please bring it to the attention of the people in charge to request that the brave men and women on the police force please keep this matter somewhere on their secondary list of matters, as it seems that the peace, tranquility, and safety for all permanent as well as temporary residents who have jobs, studies, and families who reside in Clemson are slowly but decidedly slipping away. Thank you for your consideration and service, as well as the men and women of our fine police force. He did not come because he had surgery recently, or he would have come.
And who's the citizen name?
Harvey Gold.
Okay.
His name's on the bottom.
Okay. All right. Do we have any other citizen comment, Pablo?
Well, I actually have one.
Okay.
People do read city notices, so I got an email a couple days ago and say, I see you're a member of this advisory board. Are you able to tell me if loud vehicles has ever been a point of discussion? Is that the kind of stuff that gets discussed? The noisy cars, trucks are driving my mom crazy. I'm trying to find an outlet for her to share her thoughts. I responded that I did not know because I had not attended any meetings prior to but that I will let her know. And
Do you have a name for the record?
yes, Amy Hood.
Amy
Hood.
Hood?
Uh-huh. She lives in a Sequina Trail. I mean, in Sequina, yeah. On Camelot, actually.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other citizen comments? Anything else to enter in the record?
I just wanted to remind you, we were going to hear from the chief what people have called in about that didn't come at this point, potentially. That's in the minutes, remember?
Do you have anything, Chief?
I haven't had anybody
that
call
you've
in.
received?
I mean, just in general, what
Right.
complaints over the course of the month we were going to have at this point in the meeting,
Yeah,
if
so,
there has been a theme or.
so I can tell you that those that email the complaints in about vehicles. We have received a handful over the last 2 months. They are reporting it when they are hearing it or it's occurring. And in those same complaints system, and the only statistics I have is from the ones that are emailed because of the computer issues we've been having recently. So a lot of those have not been logged to where I can readily pull them. But we do get a lot of adjacent apartment noise complaints and other loud music complaints at apartment complexes, specifically on the weekends. So those are the types of complaints that we have received along those lines. Hopefully, we'll be able to have more specific numbers to share with you as we're getting out of this computer issue.
Yes, please go.
And to follow up, I shared this with the chief. I even had a council member address this with me to please, if we could do something to enforce it more or let the public know how it can be enforced, or maybe do an addendum to what we have to make it something that can be enforceable. Because they, as I explained to him, I said, according to the law, our officers have to see it. And I said, so then he went on to say, can anything else, can we talk about it and explain it as, you know, so that's all I want to say.
So is this is something that's come up repeatedly. Is this something that we can discuss under the crime review number 9, just in terms of the number of officers that are in a certain area at times when we know that there are these issues?
We can discuss it then.
Okay, all right. Okay, are there any other citizen comments, concerns to be raised at this time? Okay, if none, we'll go on to the presentation of Rick Kramer, who is our Clemson Fire Chief. We're very pleased that he's here to present to us today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, first and foremost, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to come and stand before you this evening and talk to you a little bit about the fire department here at Clemson. So, I have a presentation prepared. When the chief asked me, I guess a couple of months ago, if I'd be willing to do this, I don't know that there was a specific topic that he asked me to speak about. So I kind of took it upon myself to prepare this presentation, which really is going to kind of take you through the history of Clemson University Fire and EMS. I won't spend a lot of time there, but I thought it was important to put some context to kind of where this department started, and then where we are today, and then the services that we provide, and then give you a glimpse of what happened in 2023. So I prepared some statistics from our last year. So real quick about me, I'm Rick Kramer. I've been the fire chief here at Clemson since March of 2021, so not that long, but it seems like every year is going by quicker, right? So approaching it, almost finished up my 3rd year, and it's been great. It's been a great experience. I moved my family here from the low country of South Carolina. We were down in the Bluffton area where I spent 24 years working for the Bluffton Fire District, and was deputy chief there before I came here. So it's been a great transition, and we love living in the community, and I'm glad to be a part of Clemson in the city. So as we go into the presentation, we have been doing a lot of history searching about our organization over the last couple of years. I have an individual that's on my staff that really gets into studying the history of Clemson, the university itself, and then specifically the fire department. And we've been in the archives digging up some old stuff. And so one of the photographs you see there, it would be to my left, or the screen left, that was taken in 1894. And that was one of the main buildings on the campus at the time, and that was one of the first recorded big fires that occurred on the university. So I thought that was interesting. And the picture in the other photograph was taken in 1946, and that was Hardin Hall, and that was one of the chemistry buildings. And if you notice in that photograph, there's a fire truck. that's actually in that picture. So we know that they obviously had a fire truck in the 40s. But what we also know is that Clemson University formed its first organized fire brigade in 1927. We've actually been able to find the general order that was handed down from the commandant at the time of the school, where they actually assigned the different brigades, the different companies' assignments. You will carry the buckets, you will carry the ladders. So this goes back to the cadet days, and we find that very, very interesting to be able to know a lot of the history of kind of where we came from and where we are today. In 1927, they actually purchased their very first fire truck, and we've actually got the record where that was purchased, which is kind of cool. So anyway, I thought that was important to share. But as you, and you can change the slide. As you can imagine, since 1927, we've come a very long way. That truck you see there is I believe that was the 60s model truck. So as things started to evolve, they started to become much more organized. They started to build fire stations, and at different times of the history, it's been in different locations. We know that one of the more permanent positions where it stood for a number of years was in the what they call it the P plant area of the university. That's where like the very first, I guess, official station was, and they were there for a number of years until 1982, and we'll see that in just a second. But one thing to remember also, and that I've been able to learn, is that the university has been helping the city for a long time. So this fire that we're looking at on the screen now is, do anybody recognize that facility?
The old laundromat?
No?
Where is that?
That's Pixie and Bill's.
Oh, okay.
Pixie and Bill's. So, and that truck you see there is a university fire truck. So, just thought it was, I guess, important to kind of put some context of, the relationship that the university and the city has had over the years. And as you know, may or may not know, we, under the city contract, are responsible for all fire suppression in the city of Clemson, the university. So that contract's been in existence for a number of years, and that was one of my first orders of business that I did the first year that I was here. We were in the last year of that contract, and I was able to renegotiate that contract between the university and the city and re-sign a 5-year deal, which we are now in year 2 of at this point. So we appreciate the relationship. So that was Pixie and Bill's fire, and so then we move into 1982. They built what they called at the time the Department of Security building. So there's been various iterations of what they called the staff, I guess, at the fire department at the time, but they built what they called the Department of Security, and that was, so the picture on the right of the screen is the actual current station on Perimeter Road, our fire station number 1, what we call Station 1, and that was, they moved into that building in 1982, I think it was built in 81, and right now I am in the process of trying to have that facility renovated. It's one of the projects that's on my list, and renovated adding an addition to the side of that building for our administrative annex. For my administrative staff. So that just kind of gives you a quick glimpse into the history of the fire department. And as we move into our current organization, just wanted to show you kind of how we were currently structured. We're a paramilitary organization. We work through a chain of command. Me being the fire chief, I have a deputy fire chief that works for me, who runs my operations. So he is responsible for the daily operations of the what I call the line firefighters, or the folks on the floor. We run a 3-shift rotation. So we have A shift, B shift, and C shift. Each one of those shifts work on a 24-hour basis. So they come on in the morning at 7, they work for 24 hours, and they leave the following morning at 7, and the next shift comes on behind it. So they work a 24 on and a 48 off schedule. and that's how we are structured. Now, there's many other structures that can be done and is done across the state and the country, but we choose to go with a 24/48 schedule. We are staffing 2 stations. So I mentioned Station 1 on campus at 1521 Perimeter Road. And then station number 2 is what we call the city station. That was the station that was built and funded by the city of Clemson, and it is at 740 Issaquena Trail, which is a super station. If you've never had an opportunity to come visit that station, I would highly recommend that you come and visit. I would love to show you around. It's a city building, and we would love to be able to show that off to you. Part of that building, and I thought was a great design, is a community room. There's a really nice room inside the station that folks can come here to the city and rent, and then have their birthday parties and meetings. And we've had bingo. Of course, the city's been doing bingo down there for a while, and yoga, and it's really great to have the interaction between our citizens and our firefighters. And I love to see that interaction face to face that we get. So that's a quick glimpse into our current organizational structure. We are growing. I think it's important to point out on that on an organizational chart that we're growing, and because of the relationship that we have with the city, it's allowing us to grow. The funding that we have, the university and the city coming together, partnering on that, and it's been great. And we are going to continue to grow to be able to support the risk that we have both on the university campus and here in the city. And if you've been here any length of time, it looks like most of you have been, you see the growth. I mean, buildings going up all over the place, and not just small residential homes, but 4, 5, 6-story living facilities, and that requires a certain level of protection, a certain number of firefighters in order to be able to adequately protect. And I'm just grateful that we're able to continue to grow our staff and to be able to provide that service. So when we look at our mission, right, the mission of the fire service in general, right, is to reduce the risk of our community and citizens. That's why we're here. We can easily say that, oh yeah, we're here to put out fires, and yeah, that's one piece, that's one small piece. But our overall mission is to reduce risk. And how do we do that? So we've decided to take what we call the 5E approach to risk reduction. And that being engineering, I gotta look up there, emergency response, the economic incentive, education, and enforcement. All right, so those are what we consider the 5 E's of community risk reduction. And without each one of those pieces of the pie, our job gets more difficult, right? So community engagement, getting out in the community and educating our community is important to us. It's so important that we've just hired a full-time community risk reduction officer, someone who's going to be out and be the face of our organization. That individual starts on February the 1st, and we're excited to be able to have that opportunity to do that.
What was that? What did you say?
Community risk reduction officer. And Kurt will be out doing education, teaching classes. We're going to start offering CPR and AED courses to the community. We're going to be able to stop the bleed, which is a program that teaches when we have folks that have traumatic injuries to be able to stop the critical bleeding that occurs. So lots of programs. We hope to be out in the community centers more, be on campus more, and just being more involved. And we're excited about that opportunity. But like I mentioned earlier, one of the pieces of that pie is the response piece, right? Going out and actually handling the calls, which is what I talk about in this next piece, and that is the different services that we provide. When you think about the fire department, you think about, okay, they're there to put out fires, but we're much more than that, right? So we provide fire suppression, yes, both to the campus as well as the city. We provide EMS service at the advanced life-saving level. So what does that mean? Well, it means we have ambulances and we have paramedics, and we're the ones that actually are conducting the transports for our patients. So we don't have to hand that patient off to a county agency. So we're able to provide that service. We have, we'll talk more about that, but we do have 4 ALS ambulances, inside of our organization, and which allows us to carry out that service. We provide fire prevention through our fire prevention office, and they're the ones responsible for going out and do our life safety inspections, fire inspections, things of that nature. We provide hazmat response, technical rescue, which includes confined space, water, and high and low angle, as well as we have, of course, special event coverage, which is a big piece of what we do with the university, with all of our sporting events. So as we dive a little deeper into those services, we'll talk about fire suppression, but more specifically, you can flip the slide, and what it looks like for Clemson. So, like I mentioned, but under the contract, we provide coverage for the city. So the shaded areas in blue and pink is the city district, okay, and the other piece is the actual campus. And so that just gives you an idea of our boundaries and our districts and how much territory we're actually covering. And we do that through those two stations. I've been doing some studies since I've been here, trying to determine, in the future, are we going to need another facility to help us carry out this? And right now, all indications, it's no. Unless we start to expand further toward Easley, then who knows what that brings, and we'll have to continue to do our analysis on that. But right now, that's the area that we cover for fire suppression. In terms of EMS, like I mentioned earlier, we do provide EMS service at the ALS level. Our firefighters are dual certified, which means they're trained in both fire and EMS. We require all of our firefighters to be at least a minimum of an EMT basic, and then we support, encourage others to move on through the advanced levels of EMT all the way up to paramedic. Some of the things that we're able to do, obviously, is bleeding control, providing oxygen, splinting patients, cardiac monitoring, medication administration, so on and so forth. And that's all at that advanced level. It's kind of when you think about how far this service has come with Clemson, because back in 1960, campus security is really who is responsible for that. So campus security began operating the ambulance service. But as the state started to mandate higher certification levels and more regulations in the world of EMS, they determined that they were going to have to use more than just the security officers for that, and they would turn that into more of a professional opportunity. So that has obviously, it continued to advance until to the point that we're at now, and that's with the ALS service. Okay, we also are trained in hazardous material response. So as you would imagine at the university, with the chemistry labs and all the crazy chemicals that we could potentially encounter, we have to be prepared at all times to respond and mitigate any type of hazardous material that we might encounter. Understanding that we are a smaller agency, we understand we have limitations. So we do have partnerships and mutual aid agreements with both Pickens County, Anderson County, and some surrounding hazardous material response teams that are bigger than us, have more capabilities, and but we still are prepared to mitigate small and minor spills, and obviously know our limitations and be able to call for mutual aid when needed. But we have a hazmat team coordinator. They perform monthly training in hazard material response, and that is something that we continue to work on. In the area of technical rescue, so when we talk about technical rescue, we have essentially three facets that we focus on here at Clemson. Confined space being one, which means anything where you would require a permit to enter. So if they're digging trenches, those types of things, sewer manholes, that kind of stuff, anything that's permitted, we are equipped to go and make rescues if necessary in those spaces. We have a water response team that we've bought a boat since I've been here, which we have fully prepared with dive equipment, certified divers to enter the water if necessary to execute a recovery or a rescue or recovery. So we continue to train in that on a monthly basis, and I'm proud of where that team has come in the last couple of years. Of course, we have partnerships with our surrounding agencies with that as well, if we need them. And one of the, obviously one of the most dangerous technical things that we do is our high angle and low angle rescue. So that's a picture of one of our folks hanging off one of our buildings on campus. And that takes training, it takes dedication, it takes skill. But we're proud to say that we have a pretty solid team when it comes to high angle rescue, and we're getting better every day. And that was a team that was kind of I would call it on the back burner when I got here a few years ago, and they weren't doing a lot of training in that area, and I really decided we need to focus on that. And we have a lot of interest. We have a lot of folks that are joining that team and bringing in high quality training, and I'm feeling good about that situation. Just to kind of cover some other things that we do, we're called for a lot of different, I guess I would call them other duties as assigned, right? So we go out with Forestry Division, the Clemson Forestry Division, at times, and help them burn around the ponds on campus, and we have specialized gear for that. We also train a lot and are prepared for any of our active threat type situations, and the picture you see there with them entering into a room with their Kevlar vest and helmets is all part of our rapid response to active threat. And of course, we could not carry any of these services out without daily training. 2 years ago, I was fortunate enough to get the money and staffing to hire a full-time training officer, which was new to our organization. So we put some emphasis in making sure that our folks were trained. We had somebody who was looking at that on a daily basis, ensuring we were maintaining our national standards, our state requirements, and so on and so forth. And we have a robust training program that I'm proud of, and our folks work hard in training every single day. They come to work every single shift, and they have a required number of hours of training every day they come to work. And I think that's important for us to keep our skills up and to be prepared for carrying out the service that we're asked to provide for our community. And then, of course, I mentioned the special event coverage. We all know that at least 7 Saturdays a year, we have a bunch of folks that emerge on Clemson, and we have to be prepared for that. And we are a lot of partnerships with our local law enforcement agencies, university law enforcement, as well as our neighbors and surrounding counties. Great partnerships there, and it takes all of us to be able to pull off that Saturday. And it's a lot of work, it's a lot of planning that goes into it. And but I believe we offer a service like no other, and we continue to look at those processes and make improvements every single year, and so that's exciting. We not only cover football, we cover every sporting event, essentially every sporting event, with the exception of a couple on campus. But I feel like we're doing them all. But it does take a lot of time. It takes a lot of commitment from our employees, and they do a really good job with that. And how do we do that? Well, we do it with the use of our equipment. Again, proud of what I was able to inherit from my prior administration. When I got to Clemson, the prior administration had done a great job of keeping quality apparatus, and you'll see that that's our engines and our ladder truck, and all those were here prior to my arrival. I am happy to report that since I've been here, the city has come on board with us to help us purchase a new ladder truck that'll be stationed out at the Issaquena station, and that's going to be a 75-foot, what we call a 75-foot straight stick ladder. So it doesn't have a bucket on the back of it, so it's just a straight ladder that goes up, has a nozzle on the end. We can use it for elevated master streams or executing rescues, and that is a city purchase. Unfortunately, in today's I guess in the industry today, it just takes a long time to get apparatus made. So when we bought that truck, it was only like a 26-month delivery date. So we're waiting a while to get that, and but we're still excited that it's coming. And then just a couple of months after I was able to get the ladder truck on order, we ordered which will also be very new to our area, and that is a heavy rescue. So what's a heavy rescue? A heavy rescue is going to be a fire truck. It's going to look very similar to that, except it'll have no pump, it'll have no water, it'll have no hose. It is strictly a traveling toolbox for all of our special operations. So currently our special operations stuff, the dive gear, the hazmat, the technical rescue are all in these small little trailers. And we actually have to respond back to the station to pick up a trailer to get it, and pick a pickup truck to get it there. Well, I wanted it all in one unit that we could put somebody on and drive it to the colony, and there's your toolbox, and it's all in front of you. So we were able to get the university to allow us to purchase that rescue, and excited about that. Again, it's on a 28-month delivery cycle, so we're not going to get that until 2026, but it is coming, and it'll be a very specialty item, but it's one that we desperately needed, and one that we're looking forward to be able to better serve our community. So excited about that. So there's the aerial that I spoke about that we ordered is the Ladder 9-2. So that's just a rendering that we were able to, I was able to put in the presentation for you. So that's what it'll look like. That's the 75-foot Sutphen, and the ladder on the right is our current 2017 Sutphen, which is a 100-foot platform. There's the heavy rescue that I spoke about, just again a rendering. It's going to be a 2026 Sutphen cabin chassis built on a 2026 SVI rescue body. And so you've got a company in Ohio that builds a cabin chassis. They send it on a train out to Colorado, and then the rescue body is placed on it in Colorado, and then we will go out there and take delivery of that truck out there, and then they'll ship it back for us. That's a brush truck, so we have two of those, one at Station 1, one at Station 2. The one at Station 2 was purchased by the city, and we use those for grass fires, woods fires, but specifically in the city, they're a great asset to have in our parking deck. So we get a car fire inside the parking deck. Our fire truck can't get in there, but this can, and this carries pump, water, and hose, the things we need to put out a fire, so it would be a great asset inside of our parking decks. And as I mentioned, the ambulances, we have 4 ambulances, Medic 9, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Medic 9, 1, and 2 serve as our primary response ambulances. Medic 9, 3 is essentially a reserve, and Medic 9, 4 is what we use as our event truck. So anytime we have a sporting event where we have coverage, that ambulance is sitting at that event, so in case we need to transport either an athlete, a coach, an umpire, a referee, or even a spectator, that ambulance is on site to help facilitate that. Again, so that was kind of the response piece of the 5 E's. This next slide refers to our fire prevention education, which is the education piece of our community risk reduction. This day here is a day that when I got here 3 years ago, everybody just raved about, and this is our Fire Prevention Day that we co-host with Central Fire Department out at the Clemson Central Gym. And last year, I want to say we brought in 600, 700 kids from elementary schools, and it was great. And we have the entire gym set up, both gyms set up, and we take them around and teach them fire safety through various activities inside the gym. In small groups, and then we bring all those small groups together at the very end. And Clemson Fire has been putting this puppet show on, from what I understand, for years and years and years, and it is like the biggest hit. And we have fire safety songs that were written, and so the puppets go to the fire safety songs. The kids love it, they have a great day. They all get, fire prevention materials, and it's a long day for us who are doing it, but it's worth it. And from what I understand, you talk to any kid who's gone through the school system here, and they will tell you that was a big day in their life in fire education. So we still do that every year, and it's pretty neat. So this next piece I'd like to talk to you about is something that we just launched this within the last couple of weeks, and right now it's being launched out on social media. And we are working on the distribution plan to get this out further to our city residents. But in 2023, we changed our record management system, which is a system we do all of our incident reports in. Has lots of other pieces and parts. to it. But one of the pieces of that new RMS system was a project called Community Connect. And what this allows our citizens to do, and folks can go on there right now and hit that QR code with your phone. It would take you to the site, and you would be able to build your personal profile into Community Connect. And what is that going to allow you to do? It's going to allow us to know anything that you want us to know about you. So what kind of information can it provide? Things about your property, things about the people at the home, your special needs you might have, the pets that might be in your house, what your plan is if you have an emergency in your home, where you're going to meet so we'll know where to find you. Anything it is you want to know, you put it in there. And then when we get a call for service to that address, the way our CAD system works is the CAD will then push it to First Due, which is what Community Connect is built around. And then as we're responding to your location, it'll let us know that this is a Community Connect partner, and we would be able to pull that information up and have that at our fingertips inside the fire engine to be able to provide. If you tell us you have as an example, an elderly parent or, on the second floor, that might need to be rescued, we would know that ahead of time. So if you have any drug allergies or whatever it is you want us to know, it's completely safe and secure. That link, no one will have access to that except you and then the person responding to your residence. So we're excited about this. We think this is going to be a great tool for our citizens to use. And like I said, this is something we just rolled out within the last week or two, and we were going to continue to push the Community Connect piece out to our
I
citizens.
saw the QR code. Where does this sit currently? Is there a website specifically dedicated for this?
At this point, that is a great question. I'm sure it's on our website, and I should know the answer to this. I do know that on the social media push that's been going out, the QR code is embedded on that as well. And
This is for city residents.
City
Maybe get it to Sarah Wickham, and they can put it out in the city literature that goes out.
Yep.
In the city email blast.
so I know that Jennifer Thaxton, who has been running our community risk reduction until we hired Kurt, so Kurt's been actually working for Jennifer. She and Kurt have been planning on how to push this. And again, he just getting started. Actually, he's not really started yet, but he's been in, and they've been talking about it. So we're excited on how this gets pushed and what the results are going to be once we get this out into the community. So.
Chief, would your guys have that same information? I mean, is it?
No.
No?
It's not shareable. We don't use the same RMS.
Oh.
All right, and then so what you're looking at there is, like I said, I tried to provide some information on kind of our statistics from last year. So that is our number of calls in 2023, which total response was 1,773 responses. The reason you have the two different ones, one says 1737 and the other says 36. 1737 was calls that we responded to in our district, in our First Due. We also, 36 times last year, we were called for mutual aid or automatic aid outside of our response area. So either the city of Central or the city, the city of Seneca or Cornish-Shiloh had an event going on that they needed help and they requested our assistance. So 36 times we went outside of our jurisdiction to provide assistance. And we also called in mutual aid on a number of occasions as well as we needed assistance. And that's what's great about our local mutual aid agreements is that it goes both ways. We had, I guess over Christmas, you may have heard, we experienced a fire over in one of our local communities at the Downs. And of course on that call that night, we had all of Clemson, we had a Pendleton engine, we had a Central engine, and a lot of our partners coming in to help us in that situation. So it gives me a little peace at night knowing that we do have folks that can come and help as needed. Because again, we're growing, but we still aren't where I would like to be in a comfort zone for all the tasks that needs to get done on the fire ground when you have a fire. It's a lot to do, and you need folks to get it done.
Is that not something that is shared, like when you were down by Hilton Head? Is that not shared, each community? They don't help each other, or is that something?
No, it does. It's a common approach. Yes, I would say, when you get into areas where you have more paid and career services, it's probably less common. Very common when you have volunteer.
Bigger city stuff, is that what you mean?
Bigger city stuff, right, where you have more career stuff. It gets a little territorial, a little boundary driven. We don't want you in our, whatever. We have enough people, we don't need you kind of situation, And I've kind of went through that transition in my old apartment. We were very small when I started. Then we grew. When I left, we were almost 10 stations. Well, we got to the point where we really didn't need a lot of help because the time the tones dropped, I was going to get 4 engines, a truck, and a rescue, and a battalion, and we could pretty much take care of everything we needed to take care of. It didn't really need outside assistance. But when we were small, it takes a lot of bodies to get the work done.
How many firefighters do we have here?
Currently, I have 45 firefighters assigned to shift, so that would be 15 a shift. Now, keep in mind that all 15 aren't there every day. Vacation, sick, taking classes, so we have a minimum of 11 is our minimum staffing. Like to keep
Both
it.
stations.
Yes, between both stations, correct. So, I'm trying to. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
I noticed in the previous slide that you had a high rate of false alarms. Is that how many of that is prank? How many of that is true, well intended, but just didn't need it, or they put it out, or
So yeah, we did try to do our best to capture that data as well, to get more granular with that. I'm not sure. So false alarms and false calls, there were 22 point.
So 700 to 751.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of high, and it ties up resources.
It very much does, and those are, so that's all, that's accumulation, so that's all of our 700 series calls. So that's going to be both the malicious pull on the pull station. That could also be the fire alarm went off. We don't know why it went off. It just happened to go off. That can also be.
So I'll answer for the city because we go to all of those calls. Most of them are faulty alarms. And the city enacted an ordinance this past year to start charging locations for false alarms. So that way it will force them to get their system fixed. Because we get a lot of false burglar alarms as well.
And we don't count like somebody burns a pot of food on the stove and we go there while it's not a fire. It was still activated because of the reason, so we don't consider that a false alarm. That's a different type of response. All of that, all the ones that we're referring to here are either A, faulty, B, somebody's been malicious, things of that nature. So and we do stay busy with them. It's quite a bit. I mean, that's obviously, if you look at our percentage outside of EMS and rescue, it's
That's why I was kind of
our top.
surprised. It would be good if you could get that breakdown so that you can, just like the chief said, enact ordinances to reduce the amount of false alarms.
So yeah, the enforcement of that would fall on the city fire marshal, which is not part of Clemson University Fire Department. He works for the city planning office, and he is tracking that and charging people accordingly.
We have a really good relationship with Brian. We work with him on those numbers.
And to follow up, I noticed in September you had a high incident rate. That's the next slide. A high incident rate, and then a drop ticket. Is that because the kids coming back to school, or? That's exactly what it is.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Kids coming back to school and football.
Football season starting. Okay.
Well, and in our statistics, because of the way we track football, that is more toward the kids coming back. because we consider, we can open up a CAD for football, so
No,
for
no, no,
us.
I'm not talking about on-campus football. I'm talking about the inundation of people that come
Well,
into
true,
town
true. Gotcha.
for football.
Yes.
So all the intoxicated people, all those
The
that
Fri-
are
the
not
Friday
on
night
campus,
before.
that are downtown
The Friday
having
night before.
fun.
It's the Friday night before. You
The
look at
tailgaters, et cetera.
exactly. So you can see the Friday night. What is it? A Friday is 290, right? So second busiest day by comparison. So, and I like this because it kind of tracks time of day for us, so we kind of know when our calls are occurring, and it's funny how it all kind of points to just a couple of things, right? But yeah, summer's great. You know, we're on Easy Street during the summer, right? But anyway, no, it's been good. Any questions over any of the statistics? And those were great questions, by the way. Thank you for that.
I wanted to ask something about the Community Connect.
Yes, ma'am.
So will there be another way to submit that information other than swiping your phone on that thing that's whatever, QR code? Yeah.
Carla sent you a link via email.
Huh?
Carla just sent you a link via email.
Oh, did, okay,
So you could click on it and go to it and without doing the QR code.
okay.
Yes, it'll be user friendly for more than just that one.
That age bracket.
It wasn't long ago that I hit my first QR code, so I understand. So.
In that bracket, but you get,
Does anybody have any other questions or any questions that I have not been able to address?
Yeah, I want, do you partner with any service organizations in the city in terms of helping low-income residents maybe receive smoke detectors or fire blankets, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. We have partnered with the American Red Cross. We have, in fact, we do our best after every fire to go into the community in which the fire occurred and do a sweep where we go door to door and knock, and we have door hangers that we can leave, and it's there basically to say, listen, you just had an incident in your neighborhood, and we want to make sure that your home is fire safe. We're willing to come in right now and perform a fire safety inspection if you'd allow us. If you need smoke alarms, we're happy to help you install them. So yes, that is, again, another one of the programs that we will be pushing very hard now that we have somebody 100% dedicated to that function. So we're excited about that.
And do you go, since we have so many of our students that live off campus in the apartment complexes, do you work with the apartment complexes to come in and provide information
Absolutely.
or materials?
We have, I know on at least 3 or 4 occasions last year, we were out in apartment complexes on safety days, again, offering the same services to come in and provide inspections if they would like, to just hand out fire safety literature. We've hot dogs and hamburgers on a couple of occasions, and just really trying to build relationships inside some of those complexes. So yes, we have quite a few that reach out to us every year, and now that, again, Kurt is on board, we will start doing the reaching out now that we have more people.
Zane, you had a question, right?
Yeah, actually, two. Has to do. One of them was about the inspections, and you might have answered it. And are apartment complexes here required to have their apartments inspected? The reason I ask that is because years ago, we had somebody from the fire department come by and inspect apartments that we had, and they came every year, and they went through the apartments, and then they didn't. And I just wondered if y'all do that, they quit doing it, or what?
So, understanding that
It was a requirement. We had to have it done.
So there's not a requirement. If someone invites us in to perform a safety inspection, more than happy. But for residential spaces, there's not, because it's private, right? So an apartment complex cannot force you as a tenant to allow the fire department to come into your, because it's your home, it's your private residence, right? Now, we would go out and inspect common areas inside of that apartment complex. Anywhere that would be a common area space, that would be an inspection that would be performed, but the actual residential space, unless somebody invited us in,
We had to
So I
notify.
believe we're talking about two different things, because Brian still does inspection on rental properties based on city ordinance.
Yeah.
So there are inspections that take place in those arenas. Now, they're still limited, they're not full inspections, but they inspect for fire extinguishers and the things that are required for the rental properties. So I know that occurs. But it's not as extensive as some of them would have been in the past because the codes have changed.
Yeah, several people asked me that. I said, well, all I know is they used to do it. And they weren't real I mean, they checked for things like, we had to let the tenants know that they were going to be coming in and that I would be going around because they knew me with the fire inspector. I had to do that. But it was really beneficial to me because I didn't go in apartments on a regular basis, but they would find things like drop cords under carpets and things like that we had to notify the kids. They had to.
So that was done under city ordinance.
Right.
Yeah, okay, that was the city ordinance. The other thing is, I recently had a gas unit as a backup for my HVAC installed, and I was real concerned about it because I am afraid of gas. My heat man came and he said, I really needed something more than just the radon. I needed a radon and a volatile fuel combination.
Okay.
And so I bought one. It was very expensive. And I actually visited your fire department because it kept beeping. But it wasn't like beep, 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 beep. It was just like beeping every so often. And I took it down there and they helped me with it, the guys down there. I just live up on off Issaquena.
Okay.
So I stopped one day on a rainy day and they were in there. They were real nice. And I did for a while, but now it just beeps every minute or so.
Is it battery backup?
And we took the battery out even, and it does that. And I can't figure out what's up with it. And it's very complicated, the instructions.
So you're concerned it's detecting
I'm concerned
something?
about it,
That
yeah.
it might be detecting something.
It may be detecting something, but it seems like it would be beep, beep, really beeping.
Sure.
I didn't know if
I
you
don't know
would be.
specifically what you're dealing with, that make, brand,
Yeah.
model.
I bought it at
More than
Ace
happy to
Hardware.
come out and look at it for you, though.
Can I call them and ask them to come look at
Absolutely.
it?
We'll be happy to
Okay.
come out.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I've got a question on the way the city's growing and stuff, and everything that's being annexed in. You said earlier that you don't need any other help or trucks, or you think you got everything equipped right. What have you kind of anticipate? Has this been a discussion at all?
So, in terms of building another station,
Yeah.
I'm not seeing that right now, right? Stations comes down to response time, travel time, how long it takes to get there, mileage away from other fire stations. So as we grow, because what you don't want is you don't want anything outside of 5 miles in the response, because then that affects your ISO rating. So we want to obviously monitor that. What I'm more concerned about is building our staff and having more people to respond to the emergencies that we do have in our areas. Getting there, in my opinion, right now, not a problem. Having the staff to actually carry out the functions that need to be carried out on a fire is what I continue to focus on, and that's why, I in my 5-year plan to the university, I'm asking for more staffing. My ultimate goal is 19 per shift, because if I had 19 a shift, that gets me to 15 on shift every single day. And with 15 a shift, I can staff all of my trucks full, and we can carry out the functions that we need to carry out. Still asking for some mutual aid, because if you look at NFPA, which is the National Fire Protection Association's manual on response to residential fires and commercial fires, it'll tell you that a residential fire, a basic room and content home, requires just over 23 firefighters to effectively put the fire out. When you go up to a commercial strip mall, okay, that number gets into the 30s, and when you go into a high-rise, that number gets into the 40s. Now, I know that we can't afford that many firefighters on duty every day, right? So that's why we have to have the mutual aid and partnerships that we have with our surrounding communities. And ultimately, it always boils back to safety. Whose safety? The safety of the residents and the safety of the firefighters. Because that's what my concern is that when my folks go to work every day, they go home the next morning. And if I can effectively get enough people and bodies on those responding apparatus to make sure that we can do the job effectively, but more importantly, safely, right? That's what my concern is. And it's tough when you have just a handful. Like my first year I got here, say in 21, so this would have been January of 22. We had a fire not far from here in the city. It was cold. We had snow on the ground. If y'all remember the snow we had that year, and we had a house fire, and it was a significant fire. And when I got there, I had 9 firefighters on the fire ground.
I was there. That was next to one of my rental houses. And I actually, by the way, I have video and pictures that I haven't know who to give it to. I'd be glad to share them with you.
But, when 9 firefighters until I got mutual aid. And it took a while to get mutual aid. And it was because it was cold and with snow on the ground, and it was just, so my heart was like completely in my throat. And then not to mention, one of my firefighters got hurt by falling into the basement. Broke ribs, had to be transported to the hospital. So now we're down. So we only had 9, now we're less. So that's why for me it's important that we keep the eye on making sure our staffing is where it needs to be. And I get it. We all have to work with inside budget constraints, but that's where I want to continue to force my money is into people. Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any other questions for Chief?
I just have a last quick question. I know some of you know that I'm coming from the former board commission I was on. My concern always was the way we're growing and the way some of these PDs are. Some of them only have one way in and one way out. I don't know if that's a marshal issue or if it's a firefighter issue. You said you have enough, but with the current rate, some of them are already in construction and some of them getting ready to come up within the next 2-3 years. Are you equipped to handle, especially some of them are pushing the height requirements, are you equipped to handle?
Again, station location wise, yes. Apparatus wise, yes. I'm feeling very, response times, yes. Getting to the locations.
Even with the traffic and the way that these roads are being cut up and
again,
the trucks.
all of it a concern, right? We have to continually watch and monitor all of those things. But as I look through our monthly statistics, that's one of the things I track every month is my response times, making sure my response times aren't climbing. And right now we're maintaining what I consider a respectable, compliant response time. And as long as that stays there, then I'll be happy. But if it starts to climb to unreasonable, then we'll have to start looking at why. Why is it climbing? Is it traffic? Do we need to start looking at locations for new stations? Have we built so far away from our current locations that we need to consider? And these are things that Andy and I have met about recently, and I've been out driving neighborhoods and looking at master plan maps and just making sure that we are thinking about the future, especially as we talk about annexation and who's paying for what, and we're trying to prepare for what we need to do. And so,
Well, I'm kind of like with her. I cannot help but be concerned because, our stations are kind of towards the west of the city, and obviously 123 in busy times becomes almost a parking lot. And I'm thinking, if there was to be a fire on that side, closer to the lake or whatever, how can your time response not be affected?
sure, and obviously once we
You have all those hoops to go through,
Right, and I'll tell you, just specifically, my people have been really good about identifying the location of the incident and then determining the best route to get there because of 123. But sometimes we come through campus, come up, from the Oconee County side, and then sometimes we come up College Avenue, and sometimes we come down. So it really depends on the traffic, and they're good about time of day, where the location, where we going, and then making travel decisions based off of that. And
You also have the railroad, that there's only limited number of crossings across that rail.
correct.
And the construction on campus.
Yes.
Is that brush truck you're talking about, that's medically equipped too? Because you said it puts out brush fires, they have water and stuff, but you totally trauma equipped?
Yeah, yes. Not at the advanced life-saving, but we do have basic life support, splints and bandages and things of that nature.
Good.
Well, thank you, Chief Kramer. If there are no further questions, we really appreciate this. This is really good information.
My
And
pleasure.
the Community Connect, I think we're all going to be looking for that link.
Well, thank you so much for your time this evening. I appreciate it. And if I can ever do anything to address any questions you have or come back and speak, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Can we get a copy of that presentation?
Sure. Yeah. How many would you like? I can email it, or can you email
I
it?
can fully email it.
Okay. Chief has it.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Okay, we'll have from Chief the staffing and status review and then the crime review.
Yeah, so we have two that are currently in the police academy. We have one person who was preparing to go into police academy, unfortunately didn't pass the state test, so we had to let him go. So we will be looking to fill his position. We had one vacancy that we had a hiring process for, that we have some candidates going through the background and stuff now to fill. We were able to bring on a new dispatcher, so we have our vacancy filled. But unfortunately, fortunately, but yet unfortunately, we may have a vacancy there here shortly, as one of our dispatchers may become one of our new police officers. So we are re-advertising again for dispatch position to fill it. We recently also had a selection process for the rank of sergeant. We have a sergeant who's out on medical, so we have to make an acting sergeant. So we went ahead and did a selection process, and we've identified the person who is going to be the acting sergeant, and that is Amanda Mills, who is our SRO out at Clemson Elementary. So now we're looking to fill that position to give her the opportunity to move into the new position. And that will be temporary until we know more about what the other position will come up with. So that's a staffing review. As far as our statistics, we had our meeting in December. I didn't have the November monthly stats, so I have both November and December. In November, we didn't have any aggravated assaults reported to us, 5 breaking and entering reports, 6 breaking into motor vehicle reports, and 6 narcotic investigations, 3 DUI, and 10 disorderly intoxication or drunk incidents. I'm just hitting the highlights. For the month of December, we had 3 aggravated assaults, 3 breaking and entering, 3 thefts from motor vehicle, 9 narcotic violations, 4 DUI arrests, and 10 public intoxication cases. For the month of November, we did 81 traffic stops and issued 20 citations, which is, was significantly down. And then in December, we did 293 traffic stops and 78 citations. The reason for that is, I mentioned before, we had a computer issue. All of our citations were written on the computer, and we lost the ability to do things in the car on the computer. And we did not have paper backup tickets from the state. We have to get that from the state. So we endeavored to go down to Columbia to get paper tickets and bring it back. So it was one of the things that we had to rectify. We're still in a situation where the officers can't do a lot of, can't do citations in the car electronically. They have to handwrite them. So that's a workflow issue. As the computers are getting to where they need to be to get back there, we're close, we're almost there. That's why some of those numbers are down. And you'll also see, our calls for service. So we're finishing up our annual report, which we'll have for you next month. And you'll see our calls for service are down for this past year. And that's because in the fourth quarter, a lot of the productivity things that the officers do were not recorded in the computer, so those numbers are down. However, and you'll see next month, give you kind of heads up, our overall crime statistics are down as well. And that was following the trend that was set in 2022 across the state. So if you look at the 2022 crime statistics across the state, the crime overall is down, violent crime is down. I think Pickens County in 2022 was had the third largest decrease in violent crime, and in property crime had the second largest decrease in property crime. So going into 2023, I think that just followed that trend into there. The only other thing I'll add is we also had a decrease in drug case numbers, but we've had a significant increase in drug money seized and drug property seized, and that's because the quality and complexity of the drug investigations that went on last year. Our detective that is working that is completely inundated, and there's so many of them are branching out into other investigations that are either tied into a federal case or something else. So we're not going to see the numbers right away because those ongoing investigations that are continually going. So that's it for, we're going to talk about the complaints.
Can I ask you before you get to that? There was a recent accident by the kitty corner to the First Citizens that resulted in a fatality. Was that just a traffic matter, or is there something about that intersection that needs to be looked at? I mean, you have people coming up the ramp, you have people going in either direction, people going down the ramp, and the light. So
I don't know, and part of the reason why I don't know is that crash was not ours, that was the university's. That's university, That's university property. So
across the bridge?
Yes,
Is university property still?
Yes. So 76, when you go under that overpass, is university property.
I see.
And that overpass is university property. The city limits don't start until just past that overpass.
Okay, interesting.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Whoever, go ahead.
no.
Chief, you were talking about one of the areas in drugs, and on January 5th, the good old journal comes out, and the Attorney General Alan Wilson says we got an army coming up here. It appeared 5 indictments have been issued in 3 upstate counties, 64 defendants, half of which were from Pickens County. So maybe we're doing okay in our little niche here, but it sounds like, boy, the Army's coming up to Pickens County, I guess, to help us.
So I think that just accentuates what I said about how complex the investigations we're currently involved in, and they're not showing us the numbers because people are still under investigation. So there's a lot of complexities that go into these investigations. There's a lot of evidence that needs to be collected before they're arrested or indicted. And they also will lead into other people who are involved in the same business. And you won't always see that in the numbers right away. It's not until that case closes do you see those numbers. So that's why I was trying to accentuate how busy our narcotics investigator is in our area.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't, 2 weeks ago or so, there was a short article about a shooting over near Columbo's.
Yes.
And whatever happened with that, because I never saw a follow-up about it.
That shooting is still under investigation. I can tell you that it's an isolated incident, we believe, because we're still investigating it. Nobody was shot. Nobody reported to us being shot at. And so basically I'll leave it at that. So it is actively being investigated. There isn't anything else really to release. It wasn't a random shooting. But let's just say the people that we suspect being involved have an ongoing feud.
I kind of read into it a little bit like that, 'cause,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that kind of brings up a point too that we've talked about before, but I want to remind everyone. The university is governed under a federal law called the Clery Act. And under the Clery Act, the university is mandated to notify its populace if there is a violent incident that has occurred on or near campus that could potentially put people in that populace under risk. That shooting incident is very close to university property,
Yeah.
and therefore the university put out a timely warning or an alert, and anybody that gets those got that alert. And of course, all the news media gets those alerts, so that's part of the reason why, so we didn't initially put anything out, but because that alert went out, we started getting inquiries from the media, and that's why limited information was given to them. But you will, from time to time, see, especially if it's close to campus property, those alerts go out, and that's mandated by federal law.
And with regard to the loud vehicle and muffler and loud stereo concerns that we heard from citizens today, is that something that is being addressed in a different way because there have been so many complaints, or?
We continually receive them. Our officers are bi-weekly reminded to enforce that ordinance and those laws. We have a placeholder on our monthly statistics that we report to our city administrator to show how many of those tickets that we issue. The last 2 months, we had no citations or traffic stops issued for loud mufflers, the last being November and December. I know I talked to them blue in the face to get the officers to enforce them. And I keep falling into the same situation. I can't give them a quota because that's illegal. But I can hold them accountable for productivity. And many of them are being held accountable for that. A lot of what has been mentioned in the letter and everything else is we have to observe it, as it was mentioned in the letter, in order to cite someone. That isn't something that can be changed at the local level. That is something that's at the state level that a state legislature would have to change. That's why red light cameras are not allowed in the state of South Carolina. It's at the state level. It's the same legal precedent as to what prevents us from putting something in place. There was a discussion on one of the social media platforms about I think it was a Tennessee town, I want to say Knoxville maybe, that was experimenting with noise meters that were strategically placed around town and would capture noise violations on passing vehicles. But if you read the article, the state of Tennessee has the same prohibitions about citing somebody for that. And the system that they were testing is still being tested to see how accurate it could be in determining these loud vehicles. And I think even in the article they recommended, well, once these vehicles are identified, they can be issued warnings and not citations and still be within the law. But they're still developing that. And I think in the social media posting, someone recommended that the city partner with the Clemson University to do some similar type of research and testing to do that. we can have a longer discussion as to, and anybody here that's worked with the university or for the university knows how the university is run when it comes to research, and I'll just leave it at that.
So in the state, you can't have the officer has to physically be there and witness it and hear it. You cannot have a video evidence of it.
No, because it's
I mean,
unlike.
video, audio evidence of it.
So, no, because how do you prove beyond a reasonable doubt that what the video is detecting, A, is too loud, and B, is coming from that source?
True, okay.
So a person observing it,
Right.
based on their senses and their observations, can give testimony to say, it was that vehicle because, well, how do you know it was that vehicle? Because I heard the noise, it was louder than any other car on the road, and as it approached me, it got louder. As it went away from me, the volume went down. That kind of testimony would have to be put into evidence to have a conviction of it. If it's a automated thing, that automation and that technology would have to definitively state that it was that vehicle. And then on top of that, who was driving the car, because the driver of the car would be the one held responsible, not the registered owner. So in a lot of red light cameras, it's the registered owner that's getting the ticket and not the driver of the car. So that's another reason why red light cameras are not allowed. Now, in some jurisdictions, they've written a law to where the registered owner is responsible for the ticket, and it's not a moving violation, but it is, a red light running, and that person who owns the car is allowing the person who's driving recklessly to use their car. And that's how they kind of get around it in some of the other states. But most states, especially in the South, they hold the driver accountable, not the registered owner.
That's what I explained to somebody. I had to give that scenario. And as I said on one of these sites, to me, these loud vehicles have to originate in some locale, in a neighborhood, on a street, or whatever. And so that noise is going on right there. It should, those residents would have to, I know in our neighborhood, if we had a loud vehicle going up and down the street, we would approach that person ourselves, just like we do people that speed, because we got kids out in the streets. And so residents have to take some responsibility. They can address the person they want to, but if they know there's a loud vehicle and they know the address where it is, then they should be reporting that. And a lot of people don't want to do that anymore because they're afraid to. But, it's that car's got to come from some driveway making the noise.
Out on 123 though, with that noise, sounds like they might be speeding a little bit, some of them out there when they take off, especially at night. So that would be a nice little catch. But yeah, that noisy problem is,
Do we have any other questions on the crime review? If not, we can move on to, do we have any other suggestions for presentations, persons we want to bring in to provide information?
I'd mentioned some time ago, give him a little more time, but maybe the new city attorney.
Yes.
Got some while yet, I think he shares with Wall Hall, if I remember.
Okay. So that would be a good one a little bit later. Okay, we can move on to board member open discussion. Anyone have anything else to share, comments, concerns?
I have one thing.
Yes.
I'm wondering if we could do a small study on, if you're on Old Stone Church and you're driving from Old Pendleton Highway and you're heading towards 76, where the road comes up to the light. The other day I was going through there and I pulled up to the light, and the oncoming traffic that's going to turn to the left on back to 76 headed towards Clemson, they pull all the way into the intersection when the light changes, and the reason they do that is their light is green, so they pull all the way up, and it's a mess.
So I will tell you that that intersection is slated to be reconstructed when the Packlet-Milliken subdivision begins. So within the next, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say 2 years, that intersection will be redesigned. It's already, I believe it's already redesigned. They know the design, because they did have a community meeting at New Hope Baptist Church to talk with the neighbors there about the redesign of that intersection, because it's gonna affect how some of the residents can get to their homes. And so they did have a discussion there, I know that, as to what they want to see when that gets reconstructed.
Okay.
But yes, that is a troublesome intersection.
It's because when they're turning, they're blocking the intersection 2 or 3 deep, and this traffic can't go, and
I attribute that intersection similar to four-way stops, where nobody knows how to use a four-way stop anymore. And that way, in that intersection, people come in the opposite direction, don't know when they can enter the intersection legally and properly, not to cause a hazard.
right.
That happens in front of Ace Hardware a lot too.
Yes, ma'am.
Pass the list.
Anything else? Okay. This time, I think Chief has a recognition.
Yes. Eunice.
Thank you, Eunice.
Eunice is stepping down, and I'm sure has like 15 other things lined up to do, because she doesn't sit still. But we have a plaque here for you in appreciation to Eunice. I'm going to mispronounce your name, but I'm going to try to leave. Okay, just Eunice. For dedicated service on the Police Advisory Board, February 2021 to February 2024. Thank you very
Look
much
up
for
here,
your
Chief.
service.
Oh, look at there.
We know you.
That's great.
You want to say anything?
No, I've learned a lot, and I feel more confident in the police, and I'm glad you're all willing to listen.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your
We appreciate
service and
your
everything
time
you
and
did.
service.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
absolutely. Thank you.
And if
And
anybody would like to
I'll
make,
just also mention our other member, Dr. King, is currently hiking somewhere. He does it every year, and that's why he's not here today. But from what I understand, and you may have gotten notice, the council is doing something for recognition, or no? Okay, well, I was told that, I don't know.
Okay.
So,
Come to a later meeting.
he may
okay.
come to a later meeting, but he's out of town today, so.
Okay.
Welcome to our two newest members.
Yes, absolutely.
You kind of got thrown into the fire there without any real heads up of how things were going to go.
And Chief, if you can make the annual report available to each of them, and maybe do the tour that we all kind of did of the station and all of that with them.
Well, I'll have the annual report. The last year's annual report is available on our website, so you can always go there and see it. The current annual report is in its final draft stages, and we'll have it by the next meeting.
Okay, great.
So we'll bring it to everybody by the next meeting.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Wonderful.
Okay. Caveat to that is that may depend on the printing abilities. It will be finished, whether it will be printed by then.
Okay.
And I'm sure they're going to want me to present it to council first before it comes over here, so that's it.
Okay, do we have anything else? If not, can we get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstained?